This is the Chamber Chat Podcast, the show dedicated to chamber professionals to spark ideas and to get actionable tips and strategies to better serve your members and community. Hello, Chamber Champions. Welcome to Chamber Chat Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Burton, and it's my goal here on the podcast to introduce you to people and ideas to better help you serve your chamber members and your community. Our title sponsor is Community Matters, Inc. With nearly 20 years in the chamber industry and over 100 media awards presented to their chamber partners, Community Matters provides the R&R that every chamber needs, revenue and recognition. When it comes to publishing a chamber map, directory, or community guide, Community Matters has the trusted experience to help your chamber accomplish your goals. With different advertising sales models and publication styles, Community Matters will help you create a non-dues revenue machine. Let's hear from Becky Womble, President and CEO of the Bastrop Chamber, to hear about her experience using Community Matters.
I've been using Community Matters for probably 6 or 7 years now. And in a previous life, I sold commercial printing. So I can highly recommend Community Matters because it's a complete turnkey job for any busy chamber exec. Basically, you give them a membership list, and from there, they contact your members, and it's no high pressure sales or anything. And it really is a complete turnkey job from start to finish. And it's a wonderful, beautiful printed product whenever you're finished. And I'm very sold on Community Matters. And with a printing background, big endorsement for me.
To learn how Community Matters can support your chamber with your next publication, please visit communitymattersinc.com/podcast to request your free media kit and request a proposal to find out what kind of non-dues revenue you can generate. Our guest for this episode is Velma Knowles. Velma is a Gallup Strength certified coach, human behavioral expert, and best-selling author. From helping to build the conservation legacy of the Bahamas to leading award-winning membership growth for associations, Velma's passion is helping organizations build a value-driven culture of belonging. Velma enjoys photographing birds, riding bikes, and pretending she likes to exercise. Velma, I'm excited to have you with us today on Chamber Chat Podcast. I'd love to give you an opportunity to say hello to all the Chamber Champions who are out there listening and to share something interesting about yourself so we can all get to know you a little bit better.
Well, Brendan, thank you so much for having me here today on your Chamber Chat Podcast, and thank you for the kind introduction. So something that listeners might not know about me, other than you've revealed my big secret, which is I'm from the islands of the Bahamas, now living here in the United States. But one of the things that they may not know is that I cut a demo recording at the age of 17 in the hopes of becoming a big country and western singer, which we know by the end of this episode that did not happen.
That's exciting, though. Not everybody can say that, and it's kind of putting their neck out there, so to speak, and take a risk. So good job. So I'm curious, where in the Bahamas are you from?
Yeah, so I was originally born on the island of Nassau, or New Providence, like it's officially known. And I have family throughout, mostly in the Abacos and in Long Island.
Okay. Well, hopefully you have a chance to get back there often. It's a
I
beautiful
do.
part
I
of the
try
world.
to go several times a year.
Yeah, that's great. So I like giving all of the guests that I have on the show an opportunity just to tell a little bit about the work that you do, kind of your business structure, how you serve, especially when it comes, specifically to chambers of commerce, how your work aligns with chambers.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you again for that opportunity. For those that might not know me or a little bit about me, my career includes 20 plus. And I always say plus because after 20 years, you stop counting. But
Keeps
20
you
years,
young, right?
Yeah, it does. 20 years working inside. So I'm one that has been inside the not-for-profit space, especially in the association world of providing services to members. And my span of expertise encompasses marketing, membership engagement, retention, and growth, board strategic planning and engagement, and then, of course, leadership development and I want to just caveat that leaders to me are across the organization. They're not those that are in higher positions, but I think everyone in the organization is a leader in one way or another. My last position was the vice president of member experience with a little brand that folks might have heard of called AAA. And so today, AAA services about 60 million members across the United States, and then Canada, Europe, worldwide for the other arms of that federation. In 2017, I had the opportunity to venture out on my own, and I felt called to serve more associations. And so today I have my own business. It's called Leaders Pathway, where leaders go to grow. And that word leaders means you as the individual and your organization. I believe that your organization can only grow higher as you as the leader grows higher. And so it all starts inside in order for it to grow outside. I work with chambers, not-for-profit, which could be donor-based organizations, member-based associations across the country. And my focus is really to help them create this culture of belonging where the members, the employees, and the board, which is that ultimate leadership in there, they feel like they belong in that organization. And I know we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go forward. But I truly believe that when you, as a leader of a member-based organization, when you create that culture of belonging, you're going to solve the challenges that you face around engagement, which I know is like top of the line and on everyone's mind, retention, which we're struggling with across the board, and then ultimately moving from stagnation or a decline in growth to a sustainable model for growth. So I hope that level sets a little bit about me. I do executive coaching, I do strategic planning, I do public speaking for workshops and conferences, and I also do employee retreats and membership planning.
Very good. Now that definitely gives us a good snapshot of the work that you're involved with. And I love the focus on leadership. And I think no matter what position you serve at a chamber,
right,
that you are a leader, you're helping to drive the vision for your community. And if you are the chamber executive, you should be thinking about training up the next leader, right? So at some point you will leave, and you want to make sure you're leaving the organization in a good position to continue growing and have that strength. And I loved how when in the context of leaders, you talked about kind of hitting the potential and everything. I think it's John Maxwell talks about the lid.
Yes,
that an organization is only as good as the leader, right? If the leader caps at a certain point, then the organization caps. So we want to be able to unleash that lid so the organization can grow. So, well, Velma, I'm excited to get into our conversation today. And we'll be focusing the bulk of our conversation around the idea of fostering a sense of belonging, as you had alluded to, specifically to impact membership growth. So we will dive deeper into this conversation as soon as I get back from this quick break. Are you looking for a year-round, affordable, and timely shop local campaign for your chamber or CVB? Look no further. Build a custom Eat, Shop, Play mobile app with App My Community by visiting appmycommunity.com/chamberchat. App My Community mobile apps are not just simple membership directory listings. They provide many more capabilities to engage with your community. Provide your residents with a robust events calendar. Partner with a local fair, festival, or farmers market to provide a schedule, map, and other resources to promote the event. Run a Small Business Saturday campaign any time of the year using built-in scavenger hunts. Allow your membership to communicate directly to their customers via push notifications. Your App My Community mobile app will be a unique member benefit, allow you to generate non-dues revenue with sponsorship opportunities, and best of all, provide a valuable resource to your community. Please visit appmycommunity.com/chamberchat now to receive 10% off your first year of an App My Community mobile app. Exciting news! Introducing Pipily, by Chamber Nation, the innovative solution to manage and promote your community for unstoppable growth. Joining the Chamber of Commerce means one thing: commerce. Businesses want to thrive, and Piply is here to make that happen. With Piply, your members can experience remarkable benefits even if they can't attend events. It's a game changer for retention. Say goodbye to ordinary directories and embrace a transformative commerce management system. Unlock the true power of commerce management. Picture a centralized Piply dashboard combining top mobile technologies for subscriptions, event registration, community communications, and more. It's incredible. Don't miss out. Visit piply.com to learn more. That's PIPPILY.com. Schedule your demo at richardscalendar.com. It's affordable and delivers more. Piply by Chamber Nation. Your community's future starts now.
Hey there, Donna Nowitzki, CEO of Yiftee here, and we are all about the Shop Local movement. We're working with more than 500 communities like yours and 15,000 small businesses like your members. We're big fans of Brandon and his Chamber Chat podcast, so we're helping to sponsor his show. But while I've got you here, what's a Yiftee, you ask? It's a digital gift card branded for your chamber that people spend only at the local shops that you authorize. In 2022, we drove tens of millions of dollars to small businesses in the U.S. The program is free for chambers and free for your local shops. You can sign up for a live Zoom demo with me or one of my teammates at yiftee.com/demo or email sales@yiftee.com. That's YIFTEE.com. That's it for now. Back to the show.
All right, Velma, we are back. So as we talk about fostering a sense of belonging to impact membership growth, what does that look like from your perspective? I know you had mentioned, fostering a sense of belonging for members, but you'd also mentioned for the board. Mm-hmm. So how do these dynamics play together for the strength of the organization?
Yeah, sure. Well, if you haven't heard me speak yet, you'll hear this message over and over again, and that is that I believe that there are three things that everyone wants in life. It doesn't matter if you are the board member, the member of the organization, the staff and employees. There's three things that everyone wants. And what they want is to be seen, to be heard, and to be valued. See, to me, fostering a sense of a belonging is you have to build a connection. And in order to do that, you need to be able to see people for who they are, to hear them, the voice and the things that are on their mind, and then to value them and their contribution. Engagement is not an activity. And when I look at what my clients are doing, what chambers and associations or member organizations in general, what they do is they're like a heavy focus on engagement. And I totally, with my whole heart, understand why. But engagement is not an activity that you do. You don't, have this webinar or have this conference to get people engaged or recruit people in to volunteer. It's about a connection. And when people are connected to the mission and when they're connected to the individuals, that's when you see this sense of belonging happening. I'll give you a good example. Myself, okay, I was a member of an organization that shall remain anonymous because we're not promoting anyone. And then, this worldwide pandemic came into play sometime in our life here. And all of a sudden, a lot of things kind of shut down. And so when it was time to renew my membership, I was like, well, I can't go to the functions. I can't do things the normal way. And so I paused. I paused my membership. Off full disclosure, and I said, I'm not going to renew. And then, as things started to get back into what we would consider the next stage of this workforce, the next work environment that we're in, and moving on to the future, I said, you know what? I miss my connections. I miss the people that I was so close to when I was there. And so literally I reinstated my membership, and they took me back. And the big idea, whether it was a webinar, which is, a service you provide, or whether it was the annual conference, or whether it was the magazine I got, or whether it was, a lunch and learn that they had, or coffee club that you got to go to, whatever the chambers had available to us, it was an opportunity to connect with those people that I have a relationship with. And so I say that to say that when you create a sense of belonging, you're really creating a place for people to connect. People need to feel like I'm seen when I'm there. People recognize me. Hey, Brandon, great to see you. You know me, and you're connecting with me. You hear me. If I tell you that I have this problem or this challenge in my business, you hear what I have to say. And it's not just listening for the sake of listening, but it's listening with a focus on how do you help me solve that? And if you can't solve it specifically from the chamber, how can you connect me to a resource that you might have that can help me solve that? And then, do you value me? And I don't mean value in the sense of the dollars that I pay for my membership. I mean value me in the sense that you appreciate what I can bring to the table. Maybe there's a specific strength that I have, or a specific expertise that you could tap into that is a resource for someone else in my community here, in my chamber, that has a need. And so I just feel like personal connections build engagement, and engagement fortifies retention, and retention gives you results. But connections are not products. It's a personal connection. It's not a product like a webinar or conference or any of the beautiful things that we use. Those are just vehicles to help us create that connection.
So you're really upsetting the paradigm there, that
I'm sorry.
engagement's not an activity, and personal connections are not a product, right? So, man. I know. So I appreciate the three things you talked about everybody needs: to be seen, heard, and valued. And I think from a board perspective, as a chamber executive working with the board, I think those three things they're super important to implement. And I think you can be very strategic with how you do that, because you're dealing with a limited, a finite amount of people, right? That you're trying to have be seen, heard, and valued. Right. As you open that up to the membership in general, everybody tends to join the chamber for different reasons. Maybe, sure. I mean, they all join probably to raise their bottom line, right? To make a little more money, benefit their company. But the vehicles to get there, they see different value with the chamber.
Right.
So as a chamber approaches individual members, how do you make those personal connections to help them be seen, heard, and valued?
Sure. Yeah. And I think it gets to, how do you create those communities within the community? And I say that because coming from, working inside a very large association, and then working voluntarily with some chambers, offering support to help them in their membership growth as a member of that chamber, what I've found is that, all members are important. Get ready for this one. But all members are not equal. And so what that means is that if you, as an association, you have a very small staff, even if you're a big chamber, you have a small staff, and you can't be all things to all people. And so marketing segmentation, which is not anything new here, but really trying to understand that 80-20 principle, but forming what is known as these micro communities. A community, or a special interest group is another way of labeling it, but it's a community within the community. So you have a member base, and then you look at that member base and you say, who's really my big 80-20, right? The members that are truly engaged, that are volunteering, that are sponsoring, that are doing the things that elevate the whole chamber. And then you say, of those individuals, what is the needs that they have, and form groups so that other people can connect on a smaller scale to get their problem solved and see a greater value in the return for the dollars that they're investing in. So I think it begins with really understanding, where are the chamber champions? We'll use your word, coined here, which I love. Where are those champions, those chamber friends that are inside the association and organization? And how can you create those sub-communities that allow others to come in and feel seen, heard, and valued, because it's a smaller group where everyone can have a place. When you look back and you research the whole idea around why chambers exist, what is a chamber of commerce? A chamber of commerce is really a place to, we'll use the word network, which is the kind of the old school hat, right? Because that kind of has a different connotation. What is networking? Ooh, nobody likes the network. I want to bring that forward to today's, and I want to modernize it in the 21st century, and it's connection. It is not networking. Here's a business card, let's speed date. It's truly connecting and being seen, heard, and valued. And I think when we can put on that member first, that people first sense of a culture where we're trying to build those connections in a genuine way, and I really want to say genuine rapport, that's when you reap the benefits of greater engagement, retention, and growth.
So great response. The thought that comes to my mind is this unnamed organization that you were a member of and dropped the membership for a short time and then missed the connections that you had. Yeah. Was it the connections with the leadership of that organization, or was it the connections with the other individual members of the organization?
Yeah. Very good question. And so let me do this first and foremost. It is the members first and foremost to me. There were members in that association or organization that I couldn't wait to hug again. I couldn't wait to talk of old stories and to make new memories. But did I have a connection within the leadership? I would say that it was selective. And it's because, when you have a staff, and I've been in those shoes working in a small organization where you got a lot of members, but you've got a job to do. And so you're very focused on trying to get the job to do. And sometimes you can miss the person when you're focused on getting that project. And this is in any organization. We tend to focus on project, but then we miss the person. And I think for me, it's been where certain individuals in the leadership of the organization has seen me, and they hear me, and they value me, and they're like, oh yeah, great. And there's that connection. But then unfortunately, that doesn't trickle down to the entire team, even if their entire team is 5 people. And so that's why I go back full circle that to create that culture of belonging has to begin on the inside. If your employees feel like they're seen, heard, and valued, you're going to foster that type of behavior that's going to then trickle outside. And then any member in your organization, any prospective, or like I like to call them future member, any future member is going to be like, I got to belong there. Brandon makes me feel like I'm missing out on something. I just want to be there because I want to be among that, people like Brandon. And I think that's where the opportunity, that's why I'm heavily passionate about, your leadership has to, and I think leadership across the organization, they have to buy into this culture of belonging and then live that out every day for your members to be able to experience that and then want to stay.
I thought that's where your response might go. So
did you like plant a seed? Oh my gosh. I feel like, okay, I passed the test with
right. So I love the line that you had said about how all members are important, but they're not equal.
Yeah.
And that's
I
something that we
usually,
just need to let sink in, right?
yeah, usually when I say that, when I'm at board, when I'm with my clients and I do a board strategic planning session and we were talking about membership, member engagement, member experience. And then they'll kind of throw some things at me and I'll say, well, just let this sit for a minute. Okay. I'm going to let this plane land here. And I tell them, all members are important. And everybody's like nodding their head. Absolutely. Because they're all members. Everyone on the board is a member, right?
Yeah.
In different levels of capacity representing their companies. And I said, but all members are not equal. And then I'm like, will they ever bring me back to work for them again? Right. And then they just silence, and then it kind of sinks in. And then one or two people will say, well, can you expand on that a little bit? And so I think that it's not to take anything away from the value of each individual in a member, organization or a customer, if for that matter, because I wrote the book, The Valuable Leader. That's my shameful plug. And so I truly believe everyone brings value, but you're running a business. The chamber is a business. It's not for profit. It's not nonprofit, right? It's a business. And so you have to apply some strategic business processes. And that's one of them.
Yeah. And I think oftentimes those members that are of higher value and value, there's different ways to assess value with a member, right?
Yeah.
But you talked about an 80-20 rule. So you may look at that 20% that are really bringing in 80% of those key metrics. Mm-hmm. And that may be a good pool to look at as you're looking for future ambassadors. They're people Absolutely. That get what your chamber does. They're people who can get on board with your vision and help make those connections with other businesses in the community. So I love that you point that out. You draw attention to the 80-20 principle and lean into that. So there's a lot there. So I feel like I have to ask you, you have a term called tiger teams. Can you tell us a little bit about what a tiger team is? And
tiger team. So when I was working inside the association world, one of the things that I got tasked by the COO to do was to turn around a membership deficit. Now, this is a big number, but if you put everything in perspective, wherever you are in the world, if you are losing members, it is a big number, okay? Because it's a problem that a big challenge you have to face. And so we had a huge member deficit that needed to turn around. And I was in the marketing department. And if you worked in any support area of a company, you know that you're there to serve the operations teams. And so to be called on to lead such an important task, first and foremost, I either considered it a career opportunity for a promotion or a career limiting move. And so thankfully, it turned out that I had the opportunity to literally turn this deficit around. But I didn't do it by myself. And I always say that whenever I engage or work with, coaching for clients, or if I'm a part of the board planning, I always say that I don't have all the answers, but all the answers are in this room. And so I had this idea creatively to tap into the various, what I would call experts in each department. And so no matter how small your organization is, it's got individuals that have a different discipline, a different set of lenses, if you will, that they look at the business every day. And so they see things, they have a perspective that's very different than, yours, right? And sometimes I know we can have such a deep focus on what we're doing that we end up with blind spots. I like to call them blind spots, where we just can't see what's outside of our vision. And someone coming from a different lens can see what maybe you can't. And so the idea was to bring together this group of people, and the marketer in me said, nobody wants another job to do, especially in a small organization. How do I motivate or how do I inspire? How do I, just bring this group where they want to belong to this challenge that we have, this task force. And it was called a task force, the Membership Retention Task Force. And I was like, I think that's just painful, right? And so I decided that I was going to rebrand it. And I came up with Team Tiger. And so Team Tiger was a inside marketing strategy, if you will, that I created. And so I came up with a new name. And the Team Tiger consisted of those that were going to be very passionate about running after the members that we were losing in the hopes of bringing them back and setting the stage to really give a roar, if you will, around how important it is to belong, the value proposition that you would get, and really shoring up some of the things that we felt we were missing. And so Team Tiger became known throughout the organization. I just started talking it up. And it was interesting because within 8 months to a year after testing a lot of ideas, I had people volunteering. Can I be on Team Tiger? And so I was like, well, we're really, right now, we're just trying to kind of manage, because we didn't want it to be too big either, because then it becomes, a place where it's harder to have everyone be seen, heard, and valued, right? Because it becomes too big. So we did rotate folks off because of other responsibilities and to bring in new perspectives. But it worked so well, and we not only turned around the deficit, but we exceeded our goal within the time of budget. And so, safe to say, I was able to keep my job. But then after that time in that organization, I got tapped by another CEO, because sometimes people think, well, that's a one and done. And, it was a silver bullet, and you guys had some tricks of the trade. And for a while there, I thought that too, Brendan. But then I got tapped by another CEO, and he said, I heard about what you did in this organization leading this Team Tiger. And I was like, wow, news travels. And he said, I'd like to talk to you about doing some consulting work for us. And I was like, well, I don't really consult, but I coach. There's a big difference, because I think you've got the power and you've got the talent. They just need a different lens, a different perspective, right? Someone to come in and kind of cheer them on, champion them and their cause, and they're tired, and re-energize them. And so I had the opportunity to engage with them. It was 3 weeks of doing some preliminary, just kind of getting the lay of the land. And then I was asked to go to present to their board. So they flew me up for a 20-minute presentation. And I couldn't even go to the board meeting. This was so funny, because they flew me to go to the board, but I can only come in the boardroom at the time of my presentation, which was only going to be for 20 minutes. And so I was like, okay. So I went in, I really didn't have anything to report on. I mean, it's 3 weeks, so you can't really get a good feel for, okay, here's the solutions you need right now. But I did present a business case, and not only a case, but a pathway forward, if you will. I call it the pathway principle. And it's just really 4 things for them to have to look at. Know your numbers. And so really getting into your data, your member data, know your numbers, know your resources. You got to know resources. And when I talk about resources, I talk about who you have in the organization and who you have outside your organization. Resources like staff, or like members that are a part of your organization and your chamber, and they have expertise, but also your partners. And your vendors, right? Or industry vendor partners, because they're different. Sponsors may be different as well, but those expertise. So know your resources. Number 3 is you have to know your value. So is the value that you bring to your member base relevant, as my good friend Mary Byers would say? Is the relevance there today as it was when you first started? And I think for all of us, we have to take a look at what our value is, as we go forward. And then the fourth step on that pathway principle is really to know your plan. And it sounds very simple, but it's not easy because everybody's got a day-to-day job. And so I just presented that pathway principle and the pieces that I had so far. And at the end of 20 minutes, my time was over, and we met at around 6:30 for cocktails. And it was then and there that the CEO said, I'd like to bring you on board 100% full time. We want you to work with our organization to turn around our membership retention deficit. And I thought, okay, I got a year. And 3 years later, with Team Tiger inside another organization, we won the Federation Growth Award for the highest net growth year over year. Every year we exceeded budget. So it's not me. I really, really, really don't want to shortchange anyone here. It is the collective connection. I'll go back to that again, of having the right people on Team Tiger with a focus of creating that culture where they want to belong and where people want to belong as members too.
Very good. And you're right. Team Tiger sounds way more sexy than Membership Retention Task Force. So for anyone out there who's on a Membership Retention Task Force, maybe, think about rebranding it.
Yeah. I tell you, it's just, it builds curiosity, and, curiosity sparks interest, and interest then gives you a return on your investment.
Right. Well, Velma, as we start to wrap things up here, I wanted to ask you, for any chamber champions that are out there listening who want to take their organization up to the next level, what kind of tip or action item might you share with them that they can implement at their organization?
Right. When I thought about this question, because in full disclosure, you gave me all these questions, and I thought, well, what would I want someone to say to me? And I could rattle off several different tactics that you could test, but I think they're shortchanged, and I think you have to know more about that chamber in order to really give them good direction there. So for me, I would say, if there's one thing I would challenge or even encourage my chamber champions to do, is to first and foremost look at your organization, your communication to your members and to your future members, and ask yourself, am I focused on communicating how I solve the problems that I know they have? Or am I focused on communicating the services that I offer? I think there's a big difference between, when you say, I'm going to communicate the problem, the solutions to the problems I solve, versus the services that I offer. Services are, things that you get from membership, but everyone has those services, right? I mean, just about even for-profit organizations now have member-based organizations, Facebook and Amazon, and they have magazines, and, they may not have conferences, but they've got a lot of different other benefits that are traditional in our membership model. So I think when you focus on selling the problem that you solve, giving them the solutions to the things that you can provide, I think that over the service, because services is what I expect. Solutions is what I need.
Right. I had heard a quote, it's been a few years back now, but it went to the effect of, if you can define the problem better than your future customer, client, member, whoever it is, they assume that you have the answer. So if you can get good at defining their problem, they will assume that you have the answer. So to your point with communication, that is key. Yeah. So as we look to the future of chambers of commerce, how do you see the future of chambers and their purpose going forward?
Oh, you are going to be so surprised by this one.
All right.
But I think the future of my chamber champions out there, and I would invite all businesses. So if they listen in, anyone outside of this listens in, I think that your greatest future opportunity is focused on connection. The Surgeon General of the United States here has reported in this time frame that we're in that one of the greatest health crises is not heart disease. It's not smoking or cancer or any of those other really detrimental health issues that we face. It's loneliness. And the solution to that is connection. And it brings us full circle because the primary reason of the existence for our chambers is to connect people. So I really, really believe that I'll use the quote that, if you want to be stronger, if you want, how does it go? If you want to go fast, go alone. Right. But if you want to go further, go together. And I think partnerships through collaboration is a way that you're going to be able to provide solutions to problems that don't even exist today for your future members and existing members. And it's going to allow you to be viewed as innovative, creative, and a leader in really bringing organizations together. And I think that is going to elevate your board leadership. It's going to elevate your member engagement, increase your employee retention, and it's going to give you a sustainable organization for the future.
Very good. I love it. Getting back to the basics, back to the roots of what chambers are all about. Well, Velma, I wanted to give you an opportunity to share any contact information or places you'd like to point people to follow you or connect with you and learn more about the services you offer, or anything you touched on today. Where would you point them to connect with you?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you again so much, Brendan, for the opportunity to be on the Chamber Chat podcast. And to be such an easygoing host. So I appreciate that. No real tough questions here, but thank you so much for helping me be well prepared for our listeners. It's really, truly my honor to serve today. And I'm very easy to find. My website is my name, Velma Knowles. And so it's velmaknowles.com. And if you go there, I have some resources that are just free that, anyone can tap into. Some of them are on membership and some are on leadership, blind spots, communication, things that can help your team inside the organization level up, if you will, and then help your organization from a growth, a retention, engagement standpoint. So I would just suggest go to velmaknowles.com. Of course, I'm on LinkedIn under the same name, and social media channels as well. And on YouTube, I have a small podcast, YouTube podcast called Your Leadership Chat.
Very good. Love podcasts. So
I know
check out Velma there. So we'll get all of that in our show notes to make it easy for people to click and follow you and learn more about what you have to offer. But I appreciate you spending time with us today here on Chamber Chat Podcast. You provided a lot of value, a lot of perspectives. I took a lot of notes and a lot of good, I don't want to just say one-liners because I think that shortchanges them, but those lines that make you think, and make you kind of look internally a little bit more and a little deeper on the comments you made today. So thank you for coming on and sharing that. And I really do think you provided a ton of value for us today.
Thank you. And thank you to the listeners and for supporting the Chamber Chat Podcast.
If you are a chamber professional, please subscribe to Chamber Chat Podcast in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Spotify. When you subscribe to Chamber Chat Podcast, new episodes will show up in your podcast app each week as they are released. If you're finding value in this podcast, please leave us a rating and a review in iTunes. But most importantly, please share Chamber Chat Podcast with your colleagues that are in the industry.